Imagine being a 17-year-old girl, hearing voices that tell you to lead an army and save your country. Crazy, right? But for Joan of Arc, this wasn't just a dream. It was her destiny. A simple peasant girl who transformed into a military leader and national hero, Joan of Arc is one of history's most remarkable figures. Want to know how she did it? Let's dive into her unbelievable story. Joan of Arc was born in 1412 in Domremy, a small village in northeastern France. At this time, France was in turmoil. The 100 Years' War between England and France had been raging for nearly a century, leaving the country divided and devastated. The French throne was contested, and England had occupied much of northern France, including Paris. Joan grew up in the midst of this conflict, and it would shape her destiny. Joan came from a humble farming family, and like many girls her age, she helped with chores and attended church. Her deep religious faith set her apart. From a young age, she was known for her piety and her compassion for others. But at 13, something extraordinary happened. She began to hear voices. Joan believed these voices were messages from God, telling her she had a divine mission to save France from the English and to crown Charles, the Dauphin, as the rightful king of France. These visions were powerful, and Joan felt compelled to act. But imagine the courage it took. A young girl in medieval France, where women had almost no power, believing she could lead an army and change the course of history. At 16, Joan made the bold decision to leave her home and seek out Robert de Baudricourt, a local military commander. She asked him to provide her with an escort so she could travel to the French court and meet the Dauphin. At first, Baudricourt and his men laughed at her, dismissing her as a foolish girl. But Joan's persistence and her unshakable belief in her mission eventually won them over. In 1429, after a long journey through enemy territory, Joan finally met the Dauphin Charles at the court in Chinon. Many doubted her, but Joan's passion and conviction were undeniable. In a private meeting, she told Charles that God had sent her to help him reclaim his kingdom. After a series of tests, Charles decided to trust her, a decision that would change the fate of France. With Charles's blessing, Joan was given a small army and sent to relieve the city of Orleans, which had been under English siege for months. The French forces had been demoralized by years of defeat, but Joan's arrival changed everything. Wearing armor and carrying her distinctive white banner, Joan inspired the soldiers to fight with renewed hope. Despite her lack of military training, she led the charge with courage and determination. The siege of Orleans marked Joan's first major victory. Over the course of several days, her troops attacked the English fortifications with overwhelming force. Joan herself was wounded by an arrow, but she refused to leave the battlefield. Her bravery motivated the French soldiers, and they ultimately forced the English to retreat, lifting the siege. This victory was a turning point in the 100 Years' War and earned Joan the nickname the Maid of Orleans. After the victory at Orleans, Joan's next goal was to see Charles crowned as king. She led her troops on a daring march through English-controlled territory to the city of Reims, where French kings were traditionally crowned. Against all odds, they made it safely to the city, and in July 1429, Charles was crowned King Charles VII in a magnificent ceremony. Joan stood proudly by his side, her mission nearly complete. This moment was the culmination of Joan's divine visions and the fulfillment of her sacred mission. But her journey didn't end here. As her fame grew, so did the challenges she faced. In 1430, while defending the town of Compiègne, Joan was captured by the Burgundians, allies of the English. She was sold to the English, who viewed her as a threat to their occupation of France. Joan was put on trial for heresy and witchcraft, a political move designed to discredit her and the cause she represented. The trial was brutal. Joan, who could not read or write, was interrogated for months. Despite the intense pressure, she never wavered in her faith or her story. The court accused her of everything from dressing like a man to falsely claiming divine visions. But Joan stood firm, insisting that she had been guided by God. On May 30th, 1431, Joan of Arc was burned at the stake in the marketplace of Rouen. She was just 19 years old, but her story did not end with her death. In 1456, a new trial ordered by the Pope declared Joan innocent of all charges, clearing her name. Centuries later, in 1920, she was canonized as a saint by the Catholic Church. Joan of Arc's legacy has endured through the ages. She remains a symbol of courage, faith, and the power of conviction. Her story has inspired countless works of art, literature, and film. Today, she stands as a timeless figure, celebrated not just in France but around the world. What do you think of Joan of Arc's incredible journey? Was her mission divinely inspired, or was she simply a brilliant leader ahead of her time? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more stories of historical legends like Joan, don't forget to subscribe and suggest who we should cover next.